All right now.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you haven't already heard the worst kept secret, LifeVantage officially announced tonight on their Facebook page the Daily Wellness. It is our brand new product. It is an immune support drink. And we are beyond excited this evening because we have the distinct honor of having Dr. Brian Dixon join us this evening. He was willing to give us of his time. So thank you so much of that. We are truly blessed to have him do that. He is the mastermind behind this incredible, amazing product. And so who better than to go ahead and share with us everything about they know about daily wellness, as well as answer some of our questions, but the man himself. All right. Now, for those of you who just may be hopping on, I'm going to share with you just a little bit about Brian. You may not know much about him or have even heard, maybe if you're just now joining us or the team, but Dr. Brian Dixon has a lot of credentials. Okay. I'm going to read through these because there's no way that I could ever remember all these. And I want to make sure that we give him the justice deserved, right? So Dr. Brian Dixon earned his PhD in molecular and cellular. His research focused on the underlying biochemical mechanisms of the aging process and the therapeutic potential of our alpha lipoid acid. I'm sure he can keep me honest on all these. Again, I am not a
Yeah,
physician.
maybe I should have
Dr.
read these
Dixon,
for you, Holly.
what'd you say?
I said maybe I should have read those for you.
Yeah, well, I offered to have you read it. You still
It's
can
more
if you
fun
want.
listening to you read through that stuff.
All right, Dr. Dixon went on to do his postdoctoral work at the Linus Pauling Institute, evaluating the bioavailability of lipic acid in young and elderly adults and its role in ameliorating deficits known to occur with age. He has authorized scientific peer-reviewed manuscripts on topics such as cancer, antioxidants, cellular signaling, gene regulation, stress coping mechanisms, weight management, sports nutrition, recovering following intense exercise, role of nutrition in recovery from surgery, inflammation, immunity, the aging process, nerve 2 activation, and research on nutrients such as glutathione, vitamin D, plant polyethylines, polyphenols, and other phytonutrients. Dr. Dixon has authored a book chapter examining the role of dietary oxidants in cardiovascular disease in the elderly. He's been in the nutritional industry for over 12 years. In that time, he has had many roles, from managing human clinical research, product innovation, product development, health education, public speaking, social media, and content marketing. As a result of these efforts, he has been a co-inventor on no fewer than 12 filed patents related to the nutritional industry. So again, this obviously is a mouthful. It's tongue-tying, but this just goes to show you a little bit about the mastermind that is behind our new and amazing daily wellness product. So again, we want to take this time to allow Dr. Brian Dixon to walk through daily wellness, share with us maybe a little bit more of the science behind this incredible product, and also go ahead and answer maybe some of the most frequently asked questions that you may be thinking or have thought of having learned about this incredible product. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Brian Dixon, for being so giving of your time and being willing to hop on our team call this evening. We really appreciate you having you with us. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share and give you the floor, because I think you're going to want to share your screen as well.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much, Holly. It's great to see you and Brian, and thanks so much for having me on tonight. I hope everyone tuned into that Facebook Live. Did you see that announcement? I think it was unbelievably well done. So kudos to the whole team back at the office. But yeah, let's talk about daily wellness tonight. So you heard a little bit about it tonight on the live webcast. If you didn't get a chance to see it, you know, those will live there forever. So go back to the main LifeVantage page on Facebook and you can rewatch it if you happen to miss it. And I also want to make sure that everybody heard that all of the assets are now available in the playbook as well. So after this webinar, by all means, get into the playbook, start looking at the various assets that are there, and start planning how you're going to plan your assault. Start educating yourself some more about the product. And then, of course, get your hands on it first thing tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. What I want to do tonight, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. And this presentation is very deliberately very scientific. So apologies in advance if you're not a nerd like me. But I really kind of wanted to dive into the science just a little bit deeper. I want you to kind of understand how we were coming at developing the process. I think it'll give you a little insight into how we actually do develop products at LifeVantage. And I also want to arm you with some confidence. So confidence that this truly is a science-based product, and we didn't just throw these things together. Let me dive right in. So I hope, Holly, can you see everything there? Just give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Yeah, so I guess it's no longer a secret. Tonight was the official semi-launch or the pre-launch of LifeVantage Daily Wellness. But like you heard, LifeVantage Daily Wellness is nothing more than a powdered drink mix. So it's coming in the tub, like you can see there. It'll have a scoop in there. So just one level scoop. We recommend in the morning, but you can take it any type of day that you want. So it really is a very similar format to our Axio nootropic beverages. So it tastes great. They can be mixed with any of our existing products. So if you want to mix it with a prebiotic, if you want to mix it with Axio, those are great options to do. Very importantly, and I think the brand team did an amazing job in naming the product and calling it Daily Wellness. It's meant to be taken every single day to keep us as healthy as possible all day throughout the year. Okay, because it's not just maybe the winter time we need to be more worried about our daily wellness. It literally is every day of the year. And it's meant to support immunity, and that's what we're going to focus tonight's conversation around. But it really is designed to support overall health as well. And we'll get into a little bit more of that in just a little bit. But let's couch this conversation around our immune system. So what is it? How does it work? And what can we do to support it? So just like with the rest of our products in the line, there are specific nutrients that we can utilize to target specific endpoints, and the immune system is no different. So if you've ever seen me talk before, you know I love definitions. So the definition of our immune system is this coordinated, and that word coordinated is very important, this coordinated system of cells, proteins, and chemical signals that's designed to keep us as healthy as possible. But what I think is really underappreciated about the immune system are all of the other roles that the immune system plays in our body. It's not just involved in our healthy immune response. The one I like to talk about the most is the wound healing process. If I were to get a little cut on my finger, that whole healing process intimately involves our immune system. And it turns out that wound healing process, right, a normal, healthy, natural process, is also a highly coordinated process. And there's somewhere between 4 to 6 steps, depending on how you count. So you can tell when a wound's healing exactly what stage of this wound healing process that you're in. So the job of the immune system is to come in right after that cut happens, and it starts to mop up all of that dead and damaged tissue from that little cut. And then once all of that's cleaned up, it actually signals to the surrounding skin cells that they can go ahead, grow and divide, and then close up that little cut. So if it wasn't for our immune system, right, we wouldn't have this wound healing process, and we wouldn't have a number of other processes inside of our body. But where I do want to focus the conversation tonight is around how we normally think about our immune system. So there are 3 parts of our immune system. There's something that's called the innate immune system. And forgive me, these are pretty sciencey words. I couldn't think of better ways to say it. So I just stuck with the scientific definitions, but innate immunity. But I like to think of our innate immune system as being kind of this ancient part of our immune system. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then we have our adaptive, or another word for it is acquired immune system. And this part of our immune system is really, really advanced. It does some amazing things. It's very targeted in its approach, and it also has memory, if you can believe that, right? Our immune system has memory. Well, I can give you an example, and I don't know if anybody on the call is as old as I am, but when I was a kid, I remember my mom stuffing me in some chickenpox parties when I was a kid. So they wanted me to get chickenpox, me and my brother get chickenpox at an early age when you can tolerate it a little bit better than you can when you're older in age. But right, we tend to only get chickenpox that one time in our lives. And that's because our adaptive or acquired part of our immune system can remember what chickenpox looks like. So pretty interesting. But does anybody know what the third part of our immune system is? And I'll say it's generally very much overlooked. The scientific name is the barrier system, but we can just simply call this our skin. So if you think about it, this is kind of like a little castle. We want the walls of our castle to be thick, to be strong, to be high, right? To keep that outside world out, and also the inside world in. But we don't just have this barrier system on the outside of our bodies. We effectively have a layer of skin that goes through our digestive system. So this tube that runs from our mouth over to our other end, but that's really a layer of skin. And if you think about it, that layer of skin in our digestive tract is subject to all of the things we're putting into our mouth, even the air we breathe in the upper part of our digestive system. So we also need to be thinking about skin health and gut health if we want to have as healthy of an immune system as possible. So let's talk about these three systems. So first, let's talk about this kind of barrier function. So whether we're talking about our skin or our gut health, we want what they call the epithelial layer, the cells of our skin or of our gut, to be as tightly bound as possible, right? Think of those castle walls, right? It's when we get a little breach in that wall where things start to happen. But what's so interesting about our immune system is it also will layer some immune cells right below the surface just in case that wall is breached. So if you think about it, we want to keep our skin and our guts as healthy as possible to try to minimize all of those things, right? The toxins, the pollutants, whatever it might be, out to minimize the burden on our other immune system. There is such a thing as immune system fatigue. So we want it when we want it, and we don't want it when we don't have to have it. So now let's talk about our innate adaptive immune system. And I apologize, I know this is a really complicated schematic, and I promise you this was the most simple one I can find. It gets much more complex than this, if you can believe it or not. The point I want to make, instead of going through this kind of line by line, is that there are a number of different kinds of cells that make up our innate and adaptive immune systems. All of these different cells originate from a single stem cell, and most of those tend to be in our bone marrow. So early on, when that stem cell divides and puts off a daughter cell, they call it, when it puts off a daughter cell, that cell has to make a decision: what type of immune cell do I want to become? And that process in science is known as differentiation. So, right, this decision-making process. And this turns out to be incredibly important because we want a nice balanced front. All of these different cells in our immune system have very unique and specific jobs. So we want to make sure we've got nice balanced populations of all of these different types of cells. You know, we like to talk about these two parts of our immune system, the innate and adaptive part of our immune system, as being just, two completely separate things. But the fact of the matter is that they can communicate with each other, and there's a lot of crosstalk that goes on between the two parts of our system. And, I could probably even layer in here on this kind of modified Venn diagram, we could also put that barrier function or skin and gut health in here as well. So there's constant communication going on between all these different parts of our immune systems. And you can even see that there are some specific cells that can go back and forth and literally are carrying messages between the innate and adaptive part of our immune systems. So remember I said that our innate immune system is really like our ancient part of our immune system. And the reason I say that is it works pretty archaically. It works in a really non-discriminant fashion. So yeah, a nuclear explosion might be a little grandiose in analogy, but it's not off for a couple of reasons we're going to talk about later. But if you think about a bomb going off, anything within a certain radius of that bomb is going to be affected by it. And the cells of our innate immune system are working in this same way. So anything that's really in proximity is going to be affected by these immune cells. Like I said, it's really kind of an archaic part of our immune system, but it's also really essential because these cells tend to be the first responders when we need them. So still, even though a little bit old, indiscriminate, archaic, they're the first to be on the scene. They're the first to react and respond. And so we absolutely need that part of our immune system. And then we have this adaptive or acquired part of our immune system. And this is that really advanced part of our immune system I was talking about. But it really is very specific and very deliberate in how it's working. So we have this indiscriminate with our innate immune system, and we have this precision that's occurring in our adaptive immune system. So if we come back to that definition, right? It has chemical signals in there. And what else is so interesting for me and being with LiveVantage, our immune cells are also, or I should say, have the capability to also be affected nutrigenomically. So at LiveVantage, we love to talk about nutrigenomics and cell signaling and activating genes. Well, we can do that same thing inside of these different cells of our immune system. So there's the chemical signals that are going on, compounds are released, they're binding to receptors, and they're triggering the cells to do something. So it's incredibly interesting. So let's talk about these chemical signaling and this cell signaling that goes on inside of immune cells. So this chemical kind of signaling is really common throughout nature, right? It's why an ant will follow this pheromone trail. These ants are really well equipped to be able to smell those pheromones that have been laid down by her sisters before her. So these pheromone trails can lead to food, water, and even get them back to the nest when they need. I have a really obscure degree. It's agricultural entomology, so the study of insects. So maybe a little less common analogy, but the way that moths and butterflies mate is really interesting. The female moth tends to go land high on a branch somewhere in a tree, and she'll start to flutter her wings just a little bit and start to secrete these pheromones. These pheromones kind of put out a little cloud. And then when a male moth comes across this cloud of pheromones, he's very uniquely equipped to be able to smell this pheromone, the cloud. And so he will follow this path back to the female, and then eventually the male finds the female and they make little baby butterflies. But our immune system works in a very similar way. So here's kind of a reenactment of something that could happen inside of our bodies. So here what these scientists have done, have taken a bunch of different immune cells and put them on a microscope slide. And then they dropped a little microscopic worm onto this microscope slide. So I would imagine many of you have never seen your immune system works. And something I love to do when I give presentations is try to make the invisible visible. This stuff isn't just magic or things that we read in a textbook. Like this stuff is actually happening inside of our bodies. So where I want to draw your attention is kind of in the middle of this worm and then down towards the bottom. You're going to see a couple of immune cells figure out that that worm probably shouldn't be there. They're going to start emitting these chemicals that are going to attract more immune cells, and you'll just see this ripple effect really go across the entire microscope slide. So are you ready? See, how cool is that? And then eventually the entire worm gets engulfed by these immune cells. It's absolutely fascinating. Now, that was with a worm. What happens maybe with a bacteria? So in this reenactment, what the scientists have done is put a drop of blood again on a microscope slide, and we can see a few different types of cells in here. The biggest cell on the microscope slide in the upper left-hand side, I don't know what it looks like, maybe a bell laying on its side, or maybe a ghost floating through the air. That's one of our white blood cells. And then those darker, really round cells are going to be the red blood cells. And then that little black dot below that biggest cell, that white blood cell, was a little bacteria that they had dropped on the cell or on the microscope slide. And what you're going to see is this bacteria wiggling around this microscope slide. This immune cell is very uniquely equipped to be able to smell chemicals that are being emitted by that bacteria. And what you're going to see is that immune cell literally chasing this bacteria around the microscope slide. So watch this immune cell go to work. Isn't that pretty cool? It can even change directions when it needs. And here it's going to change directions again. And then eventually it engulfs that bacteria and does what immune cells naturally do. So how cool is that? So that's what's going on inside of our bodies. You know, these, especially cells of our innate immune system, are literally active hunters. So another really complicated slide. So again, I apologize for the science, but there's an interesting couple of points I want to make on here. The first point is that many of these immune cells have some really interesting biochemistry that's going on inside of them. So this is just one of those biochemical pathways. And remember how I talked about our innate immune system can be pretty analogous to an atomic bomb. But if you look around at the different molecules on here, everywhere you see a dot is a free radical. And then many of these other compounds on here are also oxidants. So a lot of these compounds are actually made during a nuclear explosion or a nuclear reaction. So it's not that crazy of an analogy. But if I can draw your attention to the lower left-hand side of this pathway, there's a couple of compounds I want to point out that I'm sure you might recognize. So down there on the very bottom, there's a compound that says HOSCN. So anywhere we see CN in nature is what? It's cyanide. So immune cells can make cyanide-containing compounds. If we go right up from that cyanide-containing molecule, we see something that says H2O2. Does anybody know what that is? Remember your basic high school chemistry? It's hydrogen peroxide, right? Where have you heard about hydrogen peroxide and what do we use it for? If we go straight over to the left, we see a compound that says HOCl. Anybody know what that might be? It's technically, scientifically known as hypochlorous acid, but it's also everyday household bleach. So what do we put on that little cut on our finger? Hydrogen peroxide. What are we using these days to clean our countertops? Bleach. So these are the same compounds being made by certain cells of our immune system. So, I mean, I think it's just absolutely incredible. The issue becomes, though, these compounds, these free radicals and other oxidants don't just work on the things we want immune cells to be working on. They can also negatively affect the immune cell themselves, but they can also affect our own cells and tissues. And of course, we don't want that to happen. So at the same time, we also need to be talking about antioxidant protection. So there's another enzyme on here that I don't know if anybody noticed, but right below that H2O2 or hydrogen peroxide, does anyone see that SOD or superoxide dismutase? Where have we talked about that before, right? One of the enzymes that we know, protandem NRF2 synergizer, will upregulate. And that's going to become important when we start talking about the various ingredients of LifeVantage Daily Wellness. So we also want to be thinking about protecting these cells and really trying to put a coat of armor, if you will, on our immune cells, but also our own cells and tissues. So in reality, a really simple way to think about our immune system is we can turn it on when we need, and we can turn it off when we don't. But in my mind, that's a little bit of a simplistic approach because in reality, what we're talking about is a balance because our immune system is always a little bit on and it's always a little bit off. And then sometimes we want that balance just to change ever so slightly as we need it or as we don't need it. So, as we're talking about LifeVantage Daily Wellness, what we want to be talking about is maintaining this healthy balance. So, that off and on, the number, the types of cells that we have in our bodies, right? So, healthy, balanced immune response. And so, if we're thinking about a healthy, balanced response, we need to be thinking about the three parts of our immune system: that barrier system, the innate, and the adaptive parts of our immune system. But if we want to drill down a little bit further, and how can we positively affect each one of these parts of our immune system, how should we be thinking? Well, we want to be thinking about supporting gut and skin health. We want to be thinking about that antioxidant protection that's going on, both for the cells of our immune system and then our own cells and tissue. And then we can also leverage nutrients to help with immune cell growth, differentiation, or that decision-making process that those immune cells have to make, their activation, and also their efficiency. So when we're thinking about this is how we started to choose the nutrients that went into LifeVantage Daily Wellness. How could we affect these three parts of the immune system? And so there are 5 ingredients, as you heard tonight on the Facebook Live, in LifeVantage Daily Wellness. And you're going to remember that 5 to thrive, right? Really easy to remember. 5 to thrive. I like to break those 5 nutrients into 2 different classifications, and that is essential vitamins and essential minerals. And in biology, that word essential has a very specific meaning. And that is, if we do not get these things from our diet or our nutritional supplements, we will die. They are required for life because we cannot make them and we're really poor at recycling them. So we have to get these nutrients from somewhere or not so good things are going to happen. So that's the first point I want to make. And then we'll walk through each one of these vitamins and mineral, and we'll talk about how they can support the various parts of our immune system. So the first ingredient is vitamin C. It's in LifeVantage Daily Wellness at 150 milligrams, and it's in there for a couple of reasons. So the first reason is maybe how most of us think about vitamin C, and that's for antioxidant protection. And you say, well, Brian, why is that so important for the immune cells? Well, I talked about all of that crazy biochemistry that's going on inside of our immune cells. But what is very clear is that certain populations of our immune cells very much want to accumulate vitamin C inside of them. So vitamin C has to be actively transported to get inside of a cell. So there are transporters that bring vitamin C into the cell, and immune cells have huge amounts of these vitamin C transporters in their membrane so they can bring vitamin C inside. In fact, the concentration of vitamin C inside of some of these immune cells can be somewhere between 100 to 1,000 times higher inside of these immune cells than it would be just circulating inside of our blood. So very clearly, immune cells want to have vitamin C as part of that coat of armor, if you will. But then vitamin C, and speaking more to its essential processes, vitamin C is involved in a number of different physiological processes and biochemical pathways inside of our bodies. It's required for neurotransmitter production, it's required for energy production, but then specifically for the immune cell, it can help with that cellular division we were talking about earlier, that decision-making process of differentiation, and then through its requirement to make collagen, vitamin C can also help us support our skin function and also with that lining of our gut. And if you're not familiar with what collagen is really the glue that's holding many of our cells together. So if we don't have collagen, what happens? They literally start to disintegrate apart and the walls of the castle start to crumble. So we can use vitamin C to help with that barrier function as well. And then we have vitamin D at 5 micrograms. Vitamin D is a really interesting compound and essential vitamin, but it's not working in the traditional sense of the other vitamins that we need to get from our diet. Most vitamins are utilized during the various chemical reactions or metabolism that's going on inside of our bodies, but vitamin D3 isn't utilized that way. It's acting more like a hormone. And in fact, it's been hypothesized that vitamin D is the oldest hormone on the face of this earth. And it's been shown to regulate nutrigenomically over 2,000 different genes inside of our bodies. And if you think about it, that's a really significant percentage of our genome. And many, many of those genes are involved in the immune response. So because of those genes that are involved in the immune response, we know that vitamin D can help support how the innate and adaptive cells of our immune system are working, and especially their efficiency. And then we have the mineral zinc, another essential nutrient. This one happens to be a mineral or a metal, depending on how you like to talk about it. But it's also involved in antioxidant protection. And it can work as an antioxidant in a couple different ways. It can work directly, very similar to how vitamin C works, but it can also work indirectly through its association with a number of antioxidant enzymes. And in fact, if you remember, we were talking about SOD a little bit earlier in that biochemistry slide. SOD, there are 3 major isoforms of superoxide dismutase inside of our bodies. All 3 of those isoforms or families require zinc for its activity. And in fact, it's the zinc that makes it an antioxidant. It's been shown that if we remove zinc out of SOD, SOD will actually work in reverse and actually generate oxidants and free radicals. So we want to make sure we have enough zinc around for that direct antioxidant protection, but also that there's enough zinc around where it can be inserted into SOD so SOD can work as efficiently as possible. Zinc associates with, what is it? Over 300 different enzymes and is associated with another 1,000 different proteins. So zinc has a really diverse role inside of our cell, everything from cell division, cell differentiation. And because of these diverse roles, we know that zinc will support all 3 aspects of our immune system, the innate, the adaptive, and that barrier function. The second classification of nutrients that we have in LifeVantage Daily Wellness are what I call nutritional extracts. So these aren't necessarily essential vitamins and minerals, even though they might be providing it. They're really extracts from plants or yeast. The first one is elderberry, and we have it in there at a great dose of 200 milligrams. And elderberry has been used literally for centuries to treat just about everything under the sun. And it's been really, really utilized to help support a healthy immune response and support overall just wellness. But elderberry has these effects because it's providing a number of different compounds. It's providing essential vitamins, essential minerals, antioxidants. Antioxidants as vitamins and minerals, or antioxidants as phytonutrients. These phytonutrients can also be working nutrigenomically to activate things we want inside of these immune cells to help with their efficiency and effectiveness. One of these compounds that is so interesting in elderberry is a compound, or compounds, I should say, family of compounds known as anthocyanins. Anthocyanins play a tremendous role in our healthy immune response. I don't have a lot of time to get into it tonight, but if you're a little bit of a nerd like me, I would encourage you to just go read a little bit more about what anthocyanins are and how they can help support our immune system. But then we come to really the star of the show, this whole yeast ferment. And it's important to note that we have it in there at the full clinical dose of 500 milligrams. Even though it seems like a simple ingredient, there's a massive proprietary process that goes into actually making this ingredient. So what they'll do is they'll put yeast on a special type of food. And by putting these yeast on a special type of food, they can really steer the biochemistry that's going on inside of these yeast. So these yeast are growing, dividing, and they're eating this food that they're being grown on. And as a result, they're metabolizing. And as they're metabolizing this food, a lot of the metabolites that they make have tremendous health benefits and are known to very specifically support our immune system. And so I say that 500 milligrams is incredibly important because there is a tremendous amount of research to support this specific ingredient. There are 7 preclinical studies on this ingredient, and there are 8 human clinical studies, all using 500 milligrams and showing very clearly that this does help support our immune system. And even in some cases, as quickly as 2 hours after consuming it. So that's just absolutely amazing. I'm going to come back to that. Excuse me. I'm going to come back to that first bullet point in just a second. So this whole yeast ferment is technically a postbiotic. And I don't know if you've ever seen my presentation on the microbiome, but I make everybody learn 3 definitions, and that's prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic. So just as a quick refresher, the prebiotics are really the food for the probiotics, or the healthy organisms we want to support in this case, our digestive system. Okay, so pre is the food, pro is the actual organism, but then there's this thing called postbiotics. So it turns out the reason why having a nice healthy microbiome, especially in our gut, is so healthy isn't because we have the bacteria living there. It's actually because of the metabolites that they create when they feed on the food that we can't, those fibers and other things that we can't digest. So those metabolites diffuse into other immune cells that are living inside of our digestive system. They're diffusing into the epithelial cells of the lining of our gut. They're diffusing into our bloodstream and getting into circulation and literally having global effects. So what we can do is utilize this notion of these healthy metabolites for our own health. So we can grow up, in this case, the yeast, let them metabolize all that food they want, put all that healthy stuff back out. We can isolate it, dry it down, and then we can give that back to individuals without having to worry about keeping an organism alive and viable. So we can leverage that notion in this case, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're utilizing this as a postbiotic. And if you look at the chemical analyses of what's in here, it's phenomenal. There are proteins, there are polyphenols, so these compounds from plants. There are, again, vitamins and minerals that are there. There are amino acids, there are polysaccharides or other complex carbohydrates, and there's also a bunch of fiber. But then we're also getting some of these beta glucans, and beta glucans are what's making up the structure inside of these yeast. It's kind of like their bones, if you will. But those beta glucans are a complex carbohydrate that we actually can't digest, but the cells of our microbiome, these probiotics, can digest. They start to metabolize these beta glucans. These metabolites get into circulation, and these beta glucan metabolites actually bind to receptors on the outside of certain immune cells that bring them to a heightened state. So when an immune cell is newly born, if you will, it's really laying there pretty quietly. So something literally has to come along and bump it to bring it to this kind of heightened state or state of readiness. And one of the things that can do that are these beta glucan metabolites. And so this nutrigenomic process is known as priming. an analogy that I like here is that there's almost two locks on the outside of an immune cell. But by priming the immune cell, what we're doing is effectively unlocking one of those locks so that we can more quickly unlock the other lock and bring that immune cell to its full potential. And so these are all the benefits that we're getting from this whole yeast ferment. It's an absolutely wonderful ingredient and really the hero ingredient of LifeVantage Daily Wellness. So you saw Justin dancing away to it, but you know, 5 to Thrive. 5 to Thrive is what we're going to be seeing in a ton of the marketing materials, a ton of the assets that you have available. So a very simple and easy way to talk about the ingredients of LifeVantage Daily Wellness. That vitamin C, that vitamin D, the zinc, the elderberry, the fermented yeast extract. So the last thing I want to end with is you guys have to make me a promise, and that is to please, please, please stay compliant, okay? The regulators haven't gone away. They are watching this immune support space incredibly closely. Please, please, please stay away from COVID claims. Please, please, please stay away from anything related to viruses in general. Okay, we don't have to get so grandiose because the claim set that we are able to make around this product is enough, I feel. We can make some tremendously strong and legal claims around LifeVantage Daily Wellness. In addition to the assets that the marketing team and brand team have made available tonight, the compliance team also has made available a document like they have for every other product in our portfolio that talks about the product and then especially what we can and can't say. So if you'd like to educate yourselves a little bit more, I'd also encourage you to go hunt down that document. It is a tremendous wealth of information. But with all that said, you know, please, we'll pinky swear. Here's what we can say about LifeVantage Daily Wellness. And I'm going to come back to the first claim, but let's start with the second one. So boost your body's response to stresses. So, right, we're constantly bombarded by all sorts of things. And when I say the word stress, it can be anything from psychological stress to exercise stress to being exposed to toxins and pollutions or whatever else it might be. So this word stress is really an overarching system that's really intricately connected. And so these stress response pathways, we can also utilize the nutrigenomics, especially of elderberry and the fermented yeast extract, to help keep these stress response pathways up and keeping us as healthy as possible. It'll support everyday health and well-being. And then, oh my gosh, look at this next claim we can make. Supports respiratory and sinus health. I mean, what else would you need to say about it? It does also help support our gut microbiome. So that's that postbiotic effect that we were talking about. But then look back up top at that first claim. Improves your immune response. What else do you have to say? So that is just, I think, a tremendous claim set. And I don't think there's anything else that we would need to say about this product and just how amazing that it is. So Holly and Brian, I think that's just about all that I have. So I appreciate everyone taking the time. I know it's been a long night. I'm sure everyone was tuning into that Facebook Live, but I appreciate everybody being here. And, you know, Holly and Brian, you guys giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm sure Brian will want to go ahead and hop in here. Just have Brian and Brian, but thank you so much for that. Again, for those of you who are all about the science, I hope that you were geeking out by the information that Brian was sharing with you. Everything that he was showing on the screen was just phenomenal. And the best part, this is recorded. So guess what? You can listen to it 1,000 times if you want to, if that's what gets you excited, right? We're going to actually post this link on our team Facebook, or our team website. So lbgopro.com. That is our team website. We actually have a page designated for deli wellness only. So we have the slides that we've shared with you previously. We have the launch schedule on there. We even have some launch trackers on how you can, the specific strategies to leverage this new product to be able to launch, to build your business. There's all kinds of great stuff as it relates to daily wellness. And then we are going to add this in there as well. So thank you very much. And like Dr. Dixon said, all of the assets are already in the playbook. Yes, I know, because I've downloaded them all. I have on our printer right now, and Brian can commit to this, is that I printed out the product info sheet. I've got the FAQs on there. So we're gonna ask a couple of the FAQs, or just some basic questions I think that most people may have. And then obviously you can go to the playbook. You can pull it up as a PDF, print it out for yourself if you want, or for potentially future customers to give them that FAQ for that additional information. But we're going to go ahead and ask a couple questions. And I think there might have been a few in the chat. So Brian, if you want to keep an eye out for that, maybe if someone has another question that they can go ahead and put in there. But
yeah,
again,
I'm sorry. When I'm full screen, I can't see the chat, so I apologize. So I didn't see any of the questions that
No,
came.
that's okay.
through.
Yeah.
oh no,
and
you're
I wrote them
totally
down
fine.
as we went
I
through
meant
here,
Brian
so-
as in my husband, Brian, can look at the chat.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll just say Dr. Dixon, or I know it's formal, but we'll say Dr. Dixon or Brian or BH. We'll call him BH. That's what they call him at the volleyball class. We'll call him BH. So BH is going to keep an eye in the chat box right now for any of you who may have a specific question or burning question that you want to have asked right now. But I'll go ahead and get us started if that's okay. Before I do, don't forget, if you didn't get to watch the replay on the Facebook announcement, this goes live to distributors only tomorrow morning. All right. So Wednesday, February 24th at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. That's 10 o'clock Central Time. That's 11 o'clock Eastern Time. For those of you sometimes trying to do the math in your head. All right. If you're on the East Coast, it's 11 o'clock. You will be able to go in and purchase. Now, there are limited quantities. There are only 5,000 available. We know that we are going to sell out. That being said, there currently is a limit on how many you can place per order. So just hear me when I say per order, okay? Not necessarily per distributor, but per order. So you can order up to 2 per order for the first 24 hours. And then after that, if we still have any left, you will be able to purchase as many as you want in one order at a time, okay? So one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, Dr. Dixon, and this is actually one that I've already gotten from a couple people that I've reached out to as potential customers of ours, is there's some confusion around, is this gluten-free? So people are asking, is this gluten-free? Based off of some of the research they've seen with where this yeast is coming from, they say that it is gluten-free. But we're saying that it's not. So maybe you can clear that up a little bit, because the truth is there are some people that have gluten issues or don't have those types of tolerances. And it's kind of like their kryptonite, right? So maybe you can share a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, I can. And I do realize and appreciate there has been some confusion around that topic. I spent a big part of my day today diving into that to get an absolutely definitive answer. And I can say with 100% certainty, it is absolutely gluten-free. And in fact, it's free of all the major allergens that we would have to label for. So 100% gluten-free. Absolutely.
That's perfect, because we'll want to update the FAQs.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I saw that even in the Facebook Live, they mentioned it does contain gluten, but I can say absolutely 100% certainty, worked with the regulatory team today. It is absolutely gluten-free.
Okay. So obviously, in your professional opinion, LifeVantage aside, you would be perfectly okay with someone using this product if they have gluten issues.
Yeah, absolutely. No question.
Yes.
No question.
That's a huge win. That is, hurrah. Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate, there was a lot of confusion around that. So that kind of takes hand in hand. The other question is, can I mix this with other LifeVantage products? you know, in the past, some of our products, we've had concerns where you wouldn't necessarily want to take them with other products because it may interfere with its effectiveness. So for example, if, you know, the daily wellness, I mean, is this something that I can mix in with my Axio? Is this something that I can mix in with my prebiotic, or maybe into a protein shake? What would be your response to that?
I would actually absolutely encourage people to do that. So if you like the flavor of, let's say, the prebiotic and LifeVantage Daily Wellness, mix them together. They're working on different mechanisms. You know, there is a little bit of an overlap in the kind of gut health claim that's there, but the way that they're working is just completely different. So remember, the prebiotic is the actual food for our probiotic. Oh, how adorable. Hey, buddy. And then we have those other healthy components in there that are going to support gut health, but are more specifically targeted to be able to work on our immune systems as well. When it comes to Axio, again, that would be another great addition. B vitamins actually have tremendous immune benefits as well. We deliberately left B vitamins out of daily wellness because we assumed many individuals are also going to be taking Axio as well. So to mix daily wellness with Axio, you're also going to be getting those B vitamins in addition to the ingredients of daily wellness for further immune support, and then also the benefits that we garner from Axio.
Awesome. Oh, it just gets more and more exciting. I mean, we obviously want to arm ourselves. We want to be as healthy as possible. And if you are like me, I'm a true lover of all LifeVantage products. So I've got the Tri-Synergizer, I've got the Omegas, I've got the prebiotics, I've got the probiotics. Right now we're adding in the daily wellness, and you're just like, oh my gosh. So, you know, how would you, or what would you recommend someone, for me, for example, how would I incorporate that daily wellness within what it is that I'm already taking? So you already said it's okay to combine with some of them. Is there necessarily the right time of the day? Or, you know, can I literally down my Tri-Synergizer or Vitality Stack while drinking my daily wellness?
Yeah, absolutely. You can take daily wellness any time of day. It's not going to have any issues with sleep. Most likely, there's no ingredients in there that should negatively affect sleep. So you can literally take it any time of day. It doesn't matter if you have an empty stomach or a full stomach. All of the ingredients in there should be very well tolerated, even on an empty stomach. The thing that we're recommending is don't forget to take it every day. And so we would recommend just taking it first thing in the morning. I saw it with your little boy there. I've got two myself, and, you know, once they wake up, the day gets really, really crazy. I had an old Army buddy of mine that said, you know, always work out in the morning because that's the part of the day that you have the most control over before chaos happens. So we encourage, you know, to take most, if not all, the supplements just with breakfast, just so you don't forget before that craziness happens. And there's no issues with doing that. Me personally, I take most of my supplements at lunchtime. That's my biggest meal of the day, generally speaking. It's also my cue to remind me to take my supplements. Oh, here's my lunch. Oh yeah, let me go grab my supplements. So I would say, one, just take it in the morning so you don't forget. Or two, work on whatever cue it might be around you. Is it breakfast? Is it lunch? Is it coffee? I mean, whatever it might be, whatever your cue is, just build in that regiment so that when, oh, I grab my cup of coffee, I need to take this then. Here's lunch, I need to take this then. So build those cues in. And the most important thing is just to take it, because it doesn't do any good sitting in the container.
So kind of along those lines, Brian, so is there, because we've heard in the past, like taking Protandim to not, you know, make sure it doesn't interfere with any other supplements or anything that we're taking. Is there anything in daily wellness that might interfere the effectiveness of any of the Protandims?
No, I would say absolutely not. The ingredients are so different, right? Between Protandim, NRF2 Synergizer, and Daily Wellness. I can't imagine that there'd be any type of this interference that I've heard about in the past. And there may be some truth to that and some nuance with some of that interference that's there. but I would speculate that interference would be minor. I mean, if someone's a complete nerd like myself, like, okay, maybe we can do a little scientific experiment with ourselves. But again, the most important thing is to take the products. I find that when people start to overthink things, they become paralyzed by that information, and then they'll forget or end up doing nothing, or saying, oh gosh, I can't take it now because I might have had this meal for lunch or dinner, whatever it is. And so you just get you get people's heads spinning, and they end up doing nothing and missing days. And that's the worst thing that you can do.
So how about just the, we always talk about, as distributors, we talk about this concept of activating the body versus supplementing the body. Now, daily wellness, we talked about the ingredients, and someone could look at it and say, well, these are just supplements. But I think some of your slides touched on some of the nutrigenomic properties of these ingredients. So how would you address that?
Yeah, and Brian, I'm familiar with that tagline, right? Make them, don't take them, and I've heard that, and I think that's a little bit of an old tagline that I think really it was very clever, and it suited LifeVantage well, especially in the early days when LifeVantage was a one product company. It's a great marketing campaign that grew the company really, really quickly. The thing of it is this, and let's talk about antioxidant protection. So we'll talk about vitamin C and then what we're getting with Protandim NRF2 Synergizer. They don't work individually. So if you're taking vitamin C, that doesn't mean Protandim NRF2 isn't working. If you're taking Protandim NRF2, it doesn't mean vitamin C isn't working. And what we should be talking about is just an overall type of protection. So antioxidants, no matter what they are, if they're the antioxidant enzymes we're talking about being upregulated by Protandim NRF2 Synergizer, or if it's vitamin C or coenzyme Q10 or vitamin E, lipoic acid, whatever it might be, they all work in really kind of niches inside of the cell. Okay, so vitamin C is very water soluble, so it's going to float around. Coenzyme Q10 is going to be anchored in a cellular membrane, so we want to protect against lipid oxidation. So these all kind of have like their little niche or job. So think of a sports team, right? Everybody on the sports field has their own job to do so that the team can ultimately be successful. So again, the point I ultimately want to drive home is they're not working exclusively. And what we want to do is try to boost our overall antioxidant protection. And by utilizing, in this case, vitamin C, that can be a good strategy to do that. And then again, we know that immune cells very specifically want to accumulate vitamin C. They're floating around in our blood, a very water soluble environment. It's a great water soluble antioxidant for what it is. But they don't work individually. And I'm going to tell you one other little point that not a lot of people appreciate with the protein NRF2. NRF2 was initially discovered because it was activated during antioxidant supplementation. Okay, so just a little bit of science really quick, but we talk about NRF2 being activated. So it gets released, it ultimately goes into the nucleus, it binds to DNA, and it flips these switches that activate these various enzymes. The little section of DNA that NRF2 binds to has a name, and that name is called the ARE, or antioxidant response element. Okay, so antioxidants can also activate NRF2 as well. So I don't have any concerns whatsoever about taking direct dietary antioxidants and then our nutrigenomic approaches in our Protandim line whatsoever. And they should be working even more synergistically together.
Awesome. There's another question in the chat. I mean, is there any toxicity if you drink multiple servings per day with daily wellness with what's in it?
Yeah, so definitely no toxicity. I would recommend people don't take more than 3 or 4 maybe per day. And the reason I say that is because of the level of zinc that's in the product. So zinc is an interesting compound. We need it. It does a tremendous number of things inside of our bodies, but you can get too much of a good thing. And it's what we call a therapeutic window. So some nutrients have a really tight therapeutic window where, right, if we get none, that's a problem. And if we get too much, that's also a problem. Other nutrients, B vitamins, vitamin C, have a massive therapeutic window, and there's really no safety concerns whatsoever. The issue with zinc becomes once you get above about 40 milligrams per day, you will start to inhibit the transport of other minerals and specifically copper. And so what we don't want to be doing is basically drowning out the copper that our body needs with zinc. And there can be some at least long-term consequences to that. You know, a day or two here or there, probably no big deal, but you wouldn't want to do it consistently.
Yeah, 3 or 4 a day. I think I can manage that. I mean, during that taste test on Marco Island, I mean, I told the person running the camera, I said, "Gosh, if I wish they had just canned this up, I would just drink that. It tastes so good."
He
Uh,
literally chugged it, but we can only order 2 tomorrow, Brian. So you
yeah.
can't do that. Not until March 13th. And then you can go ahead and do that. Brian, one of the other things, and we'll start wrapping it up here, guys. I thank you so much for those of you who've been sticking on. I know it's been a long night. I haven't seen a ton of other questions coming through, but again, there is an FAQ that you can go on and look at some of those. But this was also another question. So look, you may stumble, and I already have stumbled across individuals who are already telling me, like, I'm taking 4 of those 5 ingredients already. I don't need this, or what they're already taking through these other supplements are at a higher percentage or dosage. And so they don't necessarily see, why would I take this over this? And I guess my question was like, how would like, to keep it simple, because initially I had some people that were like, oh, this is fantastic, I'm already taking a couple of these. How great would it be for me to not take those anymore? And I'll just take it in this product. And they were really excited. Whereas for those who were digging down and looking at the milligrams and the percentages and things, they're like, I'm already taking higher doses of these things off on the side, and I don't necessarily see how this is going to help me.
Yeah. So what is that question maybe designed for more of the like specific dosages of the ingredients? Is that kind of what you'd like me to talk to?
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of twofold, right? So I have one person who's telling me, hey, I'm already taking 4 of those 5 ingredients. So they're already taking, say, a vitamin C supplement, a vitamin D, elderberry, you know, they're taking zinc. They're taking those supplements outside of the yeast. And they're saying, I'm already taking 4 of those 5 ingredients. So, and the doses that I'm taking of those 4 are higher than what's in daily wellness. So why would I stop doing what I'm doing and take this instead?
Sure.
Again, just looking at it from a person approaching somebody with a new product, I don't want to necessarily add to what it is that they're taking. If there's a way that I can get them to cut back, I want to try to simplify their nutrition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one thing you can talk about is that here, now we have them all in one place. Okay. So simplify your supplement regimen, if you will. And and if someone's taking something for an another immune product, odds are they picked it up at the grocery store, and it's going to be one of those products that you take when you start to feel that little tickle in your throat. And what's important to note and differentiate between those products and our products is those are meant to be reactive, right? When you feel something happening, those products and the ingredients in those products are meant to be immune boosters. But that's a problem because it will ultimately fatigue your immune system over time. Another very common herb in immune products is echinacea, for example, and we very deliberately left echinacea out. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the back. But we very deliberately left echinacea out of the product because we wanted a product that people could take every single day. What the scientific literature clearly shows is that through what they call immune boost fatigue, echinacea after about 2 weeks has the exact opposite effect and starts to suppress your immune system. So a lot of those products, whether they have these mega doses of vitamin C, mega doses of zinc, mega doses of vitamin D, echinacea, et cetera, they're specifically meant to be boosters. And what we're trying to do is take this proactive approach And really, instead of boosting, maybe the better analogy is that we want to strengthen our immune system so that when we need it, it's ready. Okay. So it's really just two different mechanisms and two different philosophies in how we're approaching overall immune health. So again, meant to be taken daily. Many of those boosters that are on the market, you couldn't take them long term, whether it was the dose of zinc, the echinacea, whatever it might be. It just wouldn't be safe, and it definitely wouldn't be efficacious. So yeah, that's the, I think, the best, simplest response, but we can get into the science
I'm
of the
sure we could. I'm
dosages
sure
if
we
you
could.
want.
Yeah, and again, what at the end of the day, for all of you on the phone, and thank you so much for sticking with us. We are talking about a one of a kind product, right? 5 to Thrive, specific ingredients that Dr. Brian Dixon and his team have specialized to put together, like you said, to have that proactive approach to give our immune system, and not just, again, all 3 components of our immune system. So that's when you talk about daily wellness and what's its edge is not just the 5 ingredients that are in it, but because of the ingredients that are in it, we're talking about addressing and arming every system within your immune system, all 3 of those systems within your immune system, right? In one product that you can take daily, that's going to allow you to support that immune system on its own, like you said, versus waiting until you start feeling a little run down or you're getting the sniffles and then you're reaching for, the emergency and the airbornes and things like that, like you said, or the echinaceas. People are trying to combat when the damage may already be done, right? So it's that proactive versus reactive approach as it relates to your overall health and wellness. And the claims that we can make with this product, honestly, you guys, if you have not been around, are phenomenal. There are things that we've not been able to say ever with any of our products before. So they're extremely powerful statements. But what I would encourage you to do is, Dr. Brian Dixon shared so much incredible knowledge with us tonight. You do not need to know all the ins and outs of this in order to be able to share this incredible product. We have the videos, we have shareable images, we have, let the assets and the tools the company has provided you to give the message, to share the information that the customers need. Leverage the FAQ PDFs. You can email those, you can share those, you can print them out, whatever works best for you and your prospects. But at the end of the day, this is, like Brian said, this tastes delicious. We've been taking this every single day now for almost 2 weeks since we were at Micro Island. And here's the thing. People are going to ask you, what do you feel? Well, how does it make you feel? Look, this is an NAD. All right. What I want you guys to realize, what this is having confidence in the steps that I'm taking to know that I'm going to be able to feel my best every single day, that I'm going to be able to wake up and get the things done that I need to get done on my to-do list without skipping a beat, without feeling run down, or without, the fact that I can do that, there's a sense of confidence, and as may not be even the best word for it, but let's be honest, when you know that you're taking steps towards a healthier version of yourself, you feel good about that. Right. So that's the best way that I can explain it. Me taking this and knowing what I know and what we learned in Marco Island, what we've learned tonight, has just reaffirmed why this is something that is now going to be a part of my daily habits as far as my health routines for my overall health. So
Ollie, can I just echo a couple points there?
Yeah.
So, one, at the risk of talking me out of a job, you're absolutely right. Remember, I gave this presentation so that you could get a little glimpse into kind of product development and how we go about product development. I also wanted to give you the confidence that this is a science-based product. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be a scientist. The assets that the marketing team have made have been unbelievable. So like Holly says, utilize those assets. And then you said the word confidence. Like, I think that's exactly the perfect word. I probably made some bad decisions, especially around December. I spent basically the month of December in Miami, which was a hotbed down there. I even traveled to the country of Colombia for a week. So jumping on an airplane, flying down there. But I had this confidence that I was taking that product every single day, and everything worked out incredibly well. So confidence is a good thing. And then the other thing we'll have to think long term. So keep kind of an annual scorecard and just see how you did over that course of the year. Trying to pick my words as I speak, and it's hard to stay compliant, but just keep a scorecard over the course of a year. And how many days did you maybe get back versus your friends?
Yep. I love it. Well, I thank you so much. Really, Brian, I don't know if you had any last words. I
really appreciate you, and leaving the studio for that live video and running to your home and being here with us.
Changing really quick. Yeah.
Your effort there. And just sharing this. I'm really excited about this product, with everything that people are thinking about right now. And people have been talking a lot, especially in the news and the government agencies, about what I call hiding from illness. And now we have something that we talked about being proactive. Again, not saying anything outside the claims we have. And I just absolutely love that we can say this supports an immune response. That is just huge for us in terms of marketing this product, and just absolutely love it. So well done. And thank you so much for your time tonight.
All right. Thanks, Brian. A real pleasure. And I appreciate you and Holly having me on. Thank you very much.
All
And
right.
appreciate everyone's time tonight.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have yourselves a great night. Get some rest. Set a timer. I have a timer. Alexa has a timer. My phone has a timer. Get ready to get your daily wellness first and foremost, so that you can start experiencing it and the deliciousness for yourself, so that you can then share and start building on your own stories to be able to share with the people that you're going to be talking to who are going to want to take this product. So have yourselves a great night, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.